So, welcome everybody to today's lecture number 45, what we should do so that the practices give positive results. So today we are going to study this topic because everything we've seen in this course is practical. So the fundamental thing is learning to do the practices correctly and have success with them. Many of us maybe are not getting good results in the practices such as astral unfolding or meditation. So for this reason, it's very necessary this conference in the course so that we can have very clear the elements that can lead us to failure when we try to do any one of the practices. We can achieve success in all the practices we see here, and all of them for sure give positive results. But it's very important that we get to do the practices in the correct state of mind that is required for it. So, now let's see the first aspect of failure. One of the aspects by which practices fail is the lack of concentration. Normally, most people do not give the importance concentration deserves. Concentration is a wonderful power. We are concentrated when consciousness is focused on the action. If our consciousness is our particular God, we should know that it will never fail. When we focus our consciousness in what we are doing and we do not get distracted, in fact, we are going to do it perfectly and achieve success. So, concentration is the greatest power we can aspire to have. Maybe we can see it yet, but later we will realize that it's the greatest power that can be developed by a man. A person in concentration achieves wonderful things. You could, for example, walk through a stone, go inside and come out of the other side of a wall and do many other spectacular things. Things that by now we may think that are impossible to do. So, the important thing would be to learn to focus consciousness on what we are doing. It's serious that most of us do not know how to concentrate. We even believe that we concentrate because we carry out certain tasks in apparently judicious manner, but we are not really focused. If we want to start developing concentration, we have to start carrying out very simple tasks in the day in that state of concentration. Let's see what we do during the day, thing by thing. It's gonna be very helpful and useful to write them down. And the day we manage to do those things with total concentration is going to be a success. The first things we should write down are the things of the consciousness. For example, waking up, returning from the astral plane to the physical plane, and focusing the consciousness from that very moment to be able to remember all the dreams. And so we would remain every day waking up consciously and remembering what we did in the astral. The second task would be to write down each one of the different dreams we had. The third would be to sit up and get out of the bed. The fourth would be checking in which dimension we are to see if we are in the third dimension or if we are still in the fifth dimension. In order to know that, we'll jump with the desire to float, and if we remain floating, that means we are still in the fifth dimension. Okay, so the fourth task would be to undress or go to the bathroom, get to the sink, take off our clothes, get in the shower, turn on the shower, soaping up, rinsing, drying up, and drying off, and so on. We can't even imagine the number of tasks that we do each day, and all of them mechanically, in a mechanical way. We have to manage to do them consciously, concentrated, with our consciousness centered on what we are doing in each one of those moments, to be able to realize each one of the defects that intervene in each task of the day, causing us distraction. So we have to fight every day from the moment we get up to be concentrated, to live in the moment, for not being distracted, for not allowing the consciousness to go for a walk, who knows where, or falling asleep for good and spending the whole day like zombies, walking in the street, talking to people, fighting, arguing, etc., etc. And at night, if we are asked, what did you do today? Our answer is going to be, I don't know. And this is because we have been so asleep during the whole day that we do not even remember what we have done during the whole day. When a person is already aware of each one of these steps, when we take a bath, for example, we discover the elements that put us in conflict. We begin to realize why in daily life there are so many indecisions and other similar things. If we already have a program of activities for the day, we go to what we have to do, and we do not allow any thought that have nothing to do with that task. For example, if we are doing task number 3, we cannot be thinking about task number 12. We need to be focused on the task we are carrying out now. If we are not living in the present, we cannot be focused. The same thing happens when we are in task number 12 and we are thinking about a problem that occurred in a previous task. We are not living in the moment. We are, in fact, out of center. When we do a task, concentrating on that task, it becomes simpler and smaller, and it becomes very easy to make and even very pleasant. The more elementary task, like washing the coffee cups, feels very nice if we are concentrating because we are focused on what we are doing and the consciousness is manifesting. But what happens when the coffee cups are being washed? We discover that there are defects who say, how fed up I am. It would be better if someone else washed this, and so on. And an internal fight begins between the different defects that we have, and that doesn't allow us to be concentrated. We need to realize that we have to apply the process of marching death to be eliminating those little details that are showing in those moments. If we do not apply concentration to what we are doing, we are going to fail. No doubt on that. This is also the cause of the accidents we have, the lack of concentration. Through self-observation, we'll realize there are tasks that we like and there are tasks that we dislike. The tasks that we like are done very quickly because we like them. We even enjoy to make them. But the tasks that we dislike, we always tend to postpone them. But why do we dislike a certain task? Maybe, could be that we don't know how to do it. Could it be that there are some defects that hinder the development of that task? But when we are concentrated and the consciousness is acting, our being, who is wisdom, is going to be telling us how to do it. And we are going to start perfecting that task, and the day will come in which the most difficult task is going to be perfectly executed. We'll feel pleased because we are making it perfect, so we'll even want tasks to come, and we'll become prepared to face even more difficult commitments. We need to pay attention to those words, I have to. In fact, there is a resistance, an opposition. which makes the task difficult and unpleasant. But if we are awake, we discover that resistance and eliminate it. So that words change from I have to I want to. When we discover that being centered is the most pleasant thing in the world, we are going to try to stay centered and focused the most time possible, to always be in that state of concentration. If you understand this and put concentration into practice, after a few years, you will know how to concentrate perfectly on each task you do. Okay? And also, if we take advantage on that concentration state to beg the mother to eliminate each one of the little details that try to get us out of concentration, we will advance a lot in psychological depth. Remember that failure is due to distraction. When we get used to doing things without distraction, then we'll always succeed. The second aspect of failure is the lack of faith. What is not having faith? To doubt. And doubting always leads us to failure. So, what is having faith? Knowing, being certain. It's different to know than to believe. We can believe that we can do many things. For example, I can believe that I can fly. But if I haven't flown, I definitely won't fly. I can stay all day flopping and won't start flying. But when I know how to fly, I start. That's where the difference is. So, to have faith, we need to overcome something called doubt. And what makes us doubt is only one thing. Our mechanical imagination always telling us, could it be possible? Is it true? Is it a lie? Can I do it? If we have all the steps to do a practice, as soon as we doubt whether we will take out or achieve that practice, we immediately begin to waver. This is what leads us to fail. We must start to work with some certainty. If we are told to do steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, let's start doing steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and see what happens. And by the time we are doing it, we must be concentrated to identify what is affecting each step and correct what we could be doing wrong. When we overcome doubt, we start doing. Then wisdom arises, and then comes faith in what we are doing. And we do not doubt never, ever again. It's okay for a person who has not consciously unfolded to doubt about astral unfolding. But for a person who has already consciously unfolded, there is nothing to doubt. So now let's see 4 norms or steps in esoteric work. It's very good for us. It's going to be very useful to write them down and keep them in mind. Okay? The first step or norm is yearning. What is yearning? Yearning is wanting. If we are going to unfold, we have to want to do it. First, you have to want, and wanting is wishing, and wishing is nothing more than imagining. The second step is daring. What's daring? Starting to do. In other words, I'm going to unfold myself is the desire to unfold, right? But to begin to unfold is to dare. To begin is to set to work with the will in something that we wish to do. Third, we have doing. The one who begins to do at some point ends. This has a beginning and has an end. You begin to do a task because here you already started, and in a moment for another you did it. But always remember that the one who does is the being, the consciousness, and the one who acts is the I. It is one thing to act and another thing to do. Here we are saying to do, which comes from the being. The fourth norm is silence. You have to know that here we think we are talking about self-realization, and self-realization is opposite to speaking. It's learning to shut up and to be silent. So nobody can talk, for example, about what they see in the astral, because either they stop seeing it or they become a black magician. But if the person knows how to keep quiet, every day he will unfold, every day he will see, every day he will investigate, every day he will change, he will kill defects, because he's doing things as they have to be done in silence. Talking about our astrals, what we see and what our being shows us produces a karma called dark night, in which we will not see or have conscious astrals for a certain period of time. If we do not learn and continue doing so, those periods of time are going to get longer and even end up being for good. So remember that. The third aspect of failure is fear. It's very important for us to work from now on fear. Fear renders everyone powerless and incapable. When a person is afraid, cannot do, because fear is the contrary force to love, which is in the works. Immediately the imagination puts fear into us, and if our fear is not resolved, while the imagination does not resolve, the will does not act, does not work. As long as we do not resolve our fears, we will not be able to unfold, we will not be able to meditate, because the will not work for that. It's important, very, very important to understand it. We can work fear, or we have to work our fears with psychological death, asking our Divine Mother to eliminate or disintegrate all the details of fear that are not allowing us to do the practices. If we are trying to unfold, for example, we are going to start imagining that something bad or diabolical is going to happen to us, that something or someone is going to possess our body, etc., etc. We need to eliminate them all. For the wise, remember, to imagine is to see and to create. So we shouldn't let our defects take advantage of that faculty and use it in a mechanical way. We must eliminate those defects and consciously imagine how we achieve to unfold, for example. Last, we have the fourth aspect of failure, which is the lack of objective. That one who has a goal never fails. But when we have no goal, no objective, we become lazy and dizzy. For example, if I'm going to leave my house, but I don't know where I'm going, I start going up and down. And then I get to the corner and have to decide to take one of the two roads. But I don't know whether to go, north or south, because I don't have a goal. I don't have a direction. I don't know where I'm going. When we say, I'm going to like to investigate this, that, or those, to speak with a certain master, go to a certain city, investigate a past life, find so and so, whatever, but a certain objective, there we will always succeed, because success is in the goal. So as soon as we unfold, we start going where we are going and we don't waste time. What is serious, what is really bad, is to be out there birding, not knowing where we are going and where we come from. We always need to have an objective. Go to the court, investigate how is this business business going, make a transfer of funds, speak with a certain master, investigate a certain psychological aggregate, etc., etc. We need for sure to have a certain course. For this reason, when we are doing the relaxation practice in order to unfold, we may say, or we may ask ourselves, what is the objective that I'm going to meet as soon as I unfold? What is the object of going to look for a certain teacher or master? I have to know even what I'm going to ask him. Hopefully, the goal you have should be something you really want to know, something you really want to do. Because here you are going to put the emotion to work, and the astral is related to the emotion. So that's gonna help us a lot. So we need to reflect. We need to reflect on this so that we can realize what we are failing in these 4 points. If it is missing concentration, if we don't have faith, if we find defects of fear, we should ask our Divine Mother to remove them from us. And finally, we need to have a goal. If we do so, this should not fail, and we may start achieving success in all the practices we do. So, this has been the lecture for today. Thank you all for being here, and see you in the next lecture. Bye.